Hello friends, I'm here to tell you an amazing story. The story of Father Plácido Cortese. After meeting him and knowing his story, I had to paint him, and this is the result. By looking at the painting, some people thought, oh, it's Maximiliano Kolbe, the famous Polish saint of Auschwitz. Well, it's not Maximiliano Kolbe, although they have matching glasses, and both of them belong to the same Franciscan family. And both of them lived under the terrible circumstances of Second World War. And as you can tell, Father Plácido Cortese also upset a few Nazis. So they are both heroic figures for us. Father Plácido Cortese is often called as the Kolbe of Italy. So let me tell you how I got to know Father Plácido Cortese. A few years back, I was visiting Padua, northern Italy. I had to go there to pay my tribute to Saint Anthony. You may not have heard about Father Plácido, but I'm sure you heard about Saint Anthony of Padua or of Lisbon. You know, I share with Saint Anthony the same hometown. We are both from Lisbon. But Anthony died in Padua, and when I was visiting, I had to go in there and pay him tribute and pray near his tomb. And it was when I was visiting the basilica, a huge, beautiful basilica, that almost unnoticed there was a confessionary around the corner with a picture of a small friar. I would have passed by if my partner would have called my attention to it, saying, look, a new saint here. Usually I'm the one who always on the lookout for new saints and bringing all the leaflets and prayer cards I can grab from all these churches. And thank God I stopped to look into what this new saint was all about. Was when I went back to the hotel, feeling really tired of a long day. And when I was laying in bed, I was looking into his story. And oh my God, friends, my jaw just dropped. And I thought to myself, how is it possible that so few people know about this amazing person? What an heroic life. He's not just a saint, he's a hero. It's a big deal. And I'm so glad I got to know him. Father Plácido was a true hero. And let me tell you, he was not made to live in such frightening and violent times. He was the most gentle soul. He was kind, he was loving, he was patient. He was all gentleness. And in these times of war, he dared to be courageous, to give his life to others, to put his life at risk, to save others, to save hundreds of people destined to deportation and certain death. So when he joined the Franciscan family, this was not what he was expecting, but that was exactly what God called him to do. So even with a limping leg, this small man went further and faster than anyone else in his time. Even his brothers in the same convent, they wouldn't understand him. So when everyone else was frightened and frozen by fear, Father Plácido didn't stop. He carried on helping others, carrying on putting himself at risk to make sure people would be safe, protected, loved, respected. He was not just brave and courageous, he was also very creative. Father Plácido Cortese was the director of the magazine, The Messenger of Saint Anthony. Perhaps you heard about that magazine, it still goes around. And he used his knowledge, he used the typography in the convent, he used the photos of the ex-votos that people would leave in the tomb of Saint Anthony to forge papers to help those escaping. Isn't this amazing? So the confessionary of Father Plácido inside the Basilica of St. Anthony was a safe haven. The Nazis and the fascists couldn't go in because the Basilica of the St. Anthony belonged to the Holy See. So the confessionary of Father Plácido became that safe place for the resistance movement to operate, for them to pass messages on Father Plácido and tell him what were the needs of the prisoners, if they needed food, goods, any kind of support, and how to plan escapes for them. People knew that in the heart and in the confessionary of Father Plácido, they would experience peace, welcoming, and the love of God in times of such hate, prejudice, persecution, and violence. Father Plácido ended up being betrayed. One day someone knocked at the door of the convent and asked him to come and see someone dying. Father Plácido didn't even stop for a moment to think twice. He just agreed and went. The brothers never saw Father Plácido again. And his story fell into a silence because no one knew what happened to Father Plácido. It was only after the liberation of Italy, the end of the war, when the Allies retrieved a lot of documents from prison and we started to collect testimonies of those that were in prison, that, the witness of this young friar being tortured, beaten, started to come up to light. Father Plácido was taken by the Gestapo to Trieste, another city in Italy, and there he was tortured for months. And with such brutality, such anger, such hate, a huge contrast to his meek and gentle nature. They broke his arms, they took his nails, they burned his hair. They did all sorts of evil things. Father Plácido was afraid of the dark. Well, who isn't? And he was buried alive. And for the Nazis to get rid of him, they cremated him and scarced his ashes. In the middle of all this, Father Plácido didn't break. And we know that because no one from the resistance movement was caught as a consequence of his arrest. So we know that he kept the secret of the resistance. He kept his friends and those helping, those escaping, and those in need. He kept them safe. And he suffered the consequences of that. So when you look at the painting, you will see Father Plácido with this sign, because I want to show you that in contrast with all the violence and all the anger that fell on him, he didn't break. He didn't break. If you look at him and if you met him, you would think, oh, he's such a frail man. He will break in 2 minutes. But Father Plácido trusts in God more than in himself. That's why all his life was about love, about peace, about gentleness, about being like Christ. What does Father Plácido have to tell us today? What does he have to teach us? It's so easy to let anger build in our hearts, division to build in our hearts. And here you have a man that shows love in times of war. I bet that we are all called for the same. And when we feel like we cannot do it, call on Father Plácido Cortese. He will be such a great companion for you in heaven, in all life circumstances, I'm telling you. And my story with Father Plácido didn't finish just there. A few months after I painted him, I was contacted by the messenger of St. Anthony. And I thought, oh my God, this is because I painted him. So now they want to do an interview and they want to ask me about my art. The surprise was that, the friars, they had no idea I had painted Father Plácido. So up until today, I'm still thinking how did they come to know me? How did they come to know and reach out to do an interview for the messenger of Saint Anthony, of whom Father Plácido was the director at some point? How come they came to me to make an interview? Then they linked me with the postulator for the cause of canonization of Father Plácido. And I've started my collaboration with his cause to promote his life and to pray for his canonization. As a result, my painting is now being used by books about Father Plácido, prayer cards. I couldn't be more happy. And I always feel very emotional when the saints interact with us like this. So as you can see, it's not a one-way direction. Heaven, it's not one-way direction. It's always two ways direction. We interact with them, they interact with us. It's such a beautiful relationship. It's such a beautiful friendships that I have in heaven. And I can experiencing them through these beautiful signs. As a result of all this, the postulator of Father Plácido, he sent me one of my most special gifts, one of my most important relics in my house. We don't have relics of Father Plácido as normal saints have because we don't have his body anymore. But they sent me a handwritten note by Father Plácido. This is how it looks, and this is how it hangs in my chapel, bringing me to tears many times, looking at something that Father Plácido wrote himself. It's such a way for me to feel closer to him, because sometimes we forget that saints were real people, real human beings, like you and me. So, friends, thank you for watching. You know I have a weak spot for unknown saints from throughout the world. So please, join me and share this amazing life. Let's make Father Plácido known by others. He's a true hero, not long far away from our story. It's very recent. We will be celebrating 80 years since he was martyred, since he was killed in these circumstances. But we know that now we have a friend in heaven praying for us. Thank you, friends. Pray for me. I will be praying for you. Thank you for watching. God bless you.